Okay, so let's go back to one of our original questions and talk a little bit about what's the typical cost? What should a seller and a buyer expect to budget for engaging someone of your services or someone to help them thread through the legal process of this?
Yeah, so, legal services, sometimes people say to me, can you do it on a flat fee? And the answer is sometimes I can. The problem with a flat fee on mergers and acquisitions is that if the deal doesn't close, the flat fee is still due. You're still obligated to the full amount. So you could be weeks into the deal and then determine it's not going to close, but you've already committed to a flat fee, and that fee is due at the beginning of our process. So most of the time, our clients are working on an hourly rate. What we try to do is be very transparent. And when you look at cost, there are things that you can do as a buyer or seller that will help you contain your cost. Typically, I think that, the cost is generally going to be in the area of 1% of the deal price. And when I say in the area of 1%, if you are selling to a private equity firm and you're taking back stock or some membership interest, and we're going to negotiate a deal with that private equity firm for your future payments, you're talking about a much bigger price, but you're probably also talking about a much bigger purchase price. So, in general, when we see these deals in the up to $1.5 million range, the cost is going to be somewhere in the $7,500 to $12,000 range. If you add a private equity firm and we're doing a valuation of a 5, 10, 20, $50 million deal, it really is going to depend on how complex the deal is, but you're probably looking at legal fees of $40,000 to $80,000. And that's because we're negotiating sophisticated financing, complex transactions where you're going to become an owner of a future share of something in a private equity firm. It's a more complex deal. If we are dealing with, a $5 million deal and it's an SBA loan with a purchaser paying cash for the difference, frankly, you're not going to really be at 1%. You're still going to be in that $7,500 or $12,000 range because the purchase price itself isn't what drives that work. So how do you get to the bottom of the range instead of the top of the range? That's the question we get. It all depends on how prepared you are. If you are a seller and you have your ducks in a row and you have your paperwork in a row, and when we sit down and say, let's have that meeting and go over reps and warranties, and you've been able to pull together good information of your material contracts, good information of any lawsuits you may have had, all of your trademarks, all of your disclosures, if you really know your business and you organize all of it, and you spend your time reading the agreement and going through and making sure you have all your financials in place, and you have a buyer on the other side who understands what they're buying, you're going to be at the lower end of the range. If you, however, have a mess for documents, or you have a buyer with an attorney who doesn't know what they're doing, and we're going to talk about that, or you are a seller who has an attorney who doesn't know what they're doing, it could drive the price up. And here's why. I never have a problem with the biggest firms in the country on the other side because those are experienced mergers and acquisitions attorneys. When I have an attorney on the other side of a deal who on Monday does DUI cases and on Tuesday writes wills and on Thursday does personal injury and on Friday he's going to do mergers and acquisitions, needless to say, that person doesn't know what they're doing. We give them a document or they give us a document and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't meet your needs. It doesn't cover the intellectual property that you have. It doesn't meet the standards of normal mergers and acquisitions. And now we start negotiating what's the normal range for indemnification, what are the normal representations and warranties, what are the normal disclosures, and we start negotiating with someone who doesn't understand, who doesn't have the experience. They don't know what normal is. They're not giving any guidance to their client. That is a messy deal that costs a lot more money. Another messy deal is a person, and I've had this happen. I'll tell you a great story. I had a client, my client, you gotta love them, good people, but they are the analysis paralysis of the world. Indecisive. Every word of every document was renegotiated 3 or 4 times before we sent it to the other side. They couldn't decide themselves if the language was okay. Husband and wife, we'd be on the phone with them for hours while they argued with each other over what the right answer was, whether or not the language was right, whether or not their documents. Remember, as lawyers, we may have just been hired. We don't know your business like you know your business. We need you to know your business. But if you're going to be arguing between yourselves, or if you're going to be, second guessing every single thing, drives the price up like crazy.
Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications about new videos and interviews. And introduce yourself in the comments. Are you a buyer or a seller?